My name is Chloe, and this is the story of how my life turned upside down. Not once, but twice. I guess I should start at the beginning. I was born to loving parents, Mark and Lisa Smith, in a small suburban town. Dad was a journalist, and Mom worked as a nurse. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Growing up, I was a curious and adventurous child. I spent my days exploring the neighborhood, climbing trees, and making up stories in my head. My parents encouraged my creativity, always ready with a book or a new art project to keep me engaged. I was an only child, but I never felt lonely. My imagination was my constant companion. School came easily to me. I excelled in my studies, particularly in English and history. My teachers often praised my writing skills, and I dreamed of following in my father's footsteps as a journalist. High school brought new challenges and opportunities. I joined the school newspaper, became editor-in-chief in my senior year, and even won a few writing competitions. Life seemed to be unfolding exactly as I had hoped. Then came the first upheaval. It was during my senior year when I received my acceptance letter from Columbia University. I was ecstatic, already envisioning my life in New York City. But that same week, my father lost his job. The local newspaper he worked for had been struggling for years, and finally shut down. Suddenly, our comfortable life became precarious. My parents sat me down and explained that they couldn't afford to send me to Columbia. They had always been honest with me about our finances, but this hit me hard. I felt my dreams slipping away. But my parents, ever supportive, encouraged me to apply for scholarships and financial aid. We spent countless nights around the kitchen table, filling out forms and writing essays. In the end, I managed to secure enough financial aid to attend a state university. It wasn't Columbia, but it was still a good school with a respected journalism program. I tried to stay positive, telling myself that this was just a detour, not a dead end. College life was an adjustment. I threw myself into my studies and extracurricular activities, determined to make the most of my opportunity. I wrote for the college paper, interned at local news stations, and even started a blog about student life. My hard work paid off, and by my junior year, I had secured a prestigious internship at a national news network for the summer. That summer in New York was everything I had dreamed of. The city pulsed with energy, and I felt alive in a way I never had before. My internship was challenging but rewarding. I was learning so much, not just about journalism, but about life in a big city. I made friends from all over the country, tried foods I'd never heard of, and stayed out late exploring the city that never sleeps. As the summer drew to a close, I was offered a job at the network, to start after I graduated. It was an entry-level position, but it was a foot in the door. I returned to college for my senior year with a spring in my step and a clear vision for my future. Graduation day arrived, and I felt on top of the world. My parents beamed with pride as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma. That night, as we celebrated over dinner, I shared my exciting news about the job in New York. My parents were thrilled for me, even though I could see a hint of sadness in their eyes at the thought of me moving so far away. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of packing and planning. I found a tiny apartment in Brooklyn that I could just barely afford on my starting salary. My parents helped me move, and I'll never forget the moment they drove away, leaving me alone in my new life. I felt a mixture of excitement and terror. My job was everything I had hoped for and more. The pace was frantic, the hours were long, but I loved every minute of it. I was learning so much, and I felt like I was really making a difference, helping to share important stories with the world. My colleagues became my friends, and New York began to feel like home. 2 years flew by, and I was thriving. I had been promoted twice and was now producing my own segments. My blog had gained a significant following, and I was even approached about turning it into a book. Life was good, and I felt invincible. Then came the second upheaval, the one that would change everything. It started with a phone call from my mom. Dad had been having some health issues and had finally gone to see a doctor. The diagnosis was devastating. Stage 4 lung cancer. The prognosis was poor. He had maybe a year left. My world shattered. I took a leave of absence from work and rushed home. Seeing my father, the man who had always been my rock, looking so frail and tired, broke my heart. My mother was trying to be strong, but I could see the fear and exhaustion in her eyes. The next few months were a blur of hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and long nights researching alternative treatments. I watched as my father fought bravely against the disease that was ravaging his body. He never complained, always greeting us with a smile, even on his worst days. As Dad's condition worsened, I realized I couldn't leave. My mother needed me, and I needed to be there for every precious moment we had left with Dad. With a heavy heart, I resigned from my job in New York. My dreams of a high-flying career in journalism suddenly seemed trivial compared to the importance of family. Dad passed away 6 months after his diagnosis. The funeral was a blur of tears and hugs from people whose faces I barely registered. In the days that followed, I helped Mom sort through Dad's things. We laughed and cried as we reminisced over old photographs and mementos. As the fog of grief began to lift, I started to think about what came next. I couldn't leave Mom alone in the house full of memories, but I also couldn't see myself staying in our small town forever. I needed to find a way to balance my ambitions with my responsibilities. That's when an idea began to form. I had always loved writing, and my blog had been successful. Why not try my hand at freelance writing? I could work from home, take care of Mom, and still pursue my passion for storytelling. I started small, writing articles for local publications and online platforms. Gradually, I built up a portfolio and a reputation. I discovered that I enjoyed the freedom of freelancing, the ability to choose my projects and work at my own pace. It wasn't the high-pressure world of broadcast journalism, but it was fulfilling in its own way. As months turned into years, I found a new rhythm to my life. I wrote during the day and spent evenings with Mom. We became closer than ever, sharing meals, watching old movies, and tending to Dad's garden together. I even started teaching a writing class at the local community college. Something I found unexpectedly rewarding. My writing career began to take off. I landed contracts with major publications, wrote a few books, and even won a prestigious journalism award for a series of articles I wrote about small-town America. It wasn't the life I had envisioned for myself, but it was a good life, a meaningful one. Looking back now, I realize that those two major upheavals in my life, as painful as they were, shaped me into the person I am today. Losing the chance to go to my dream school taught me resilience and the value of hard work. Losing my father and giving up my New York career taught me about priorities and the true meaning of success. I've learned that life rarely goes according to plan, but that doesn't mean it can't be beautiful and fulfilling. My journey has taught me to be adaptable, to find joy in unexpected places, and to never take my loved ones for granted. Today, as I sit in my home office, looking out at the garden my father planted and my mother and I have nurtured, I feel a sense of peace. My life may not be what I once dreamed it would be, but it's rich in ways I never could have imagined. I found my voice as a writer, not in the bustling newsrooms of New York, but in the quiet of my childhood home. Mom is still with me, her health good, her spirit strong. We've formed a partnership of sorts, supporting each other through the ups and downs of life. She's my biggest fan, reading everything I write, offering her honest opinion, whether I want it or not, and always encouraging me to push further. I've come to understand that success isn't about prestigious jobs or big city living. It's about finding fulfillment in your work, cherishing your relationships, and making a positive impact on the world around you, no matter how small. As I reflect on my journey, I realize that those two upheavals weren't really upside-down moments at all. They were course corrections, guiding me towards a life that aligns more closely with my true self and values. They taught me that resilience isn't about bouncing back to where you were before, but about adapting and growing into something new and perhaps even better. I still think about the life I might have had in New York, the career I left behind. Sometimes I wonder, what if? But then I look at the life I've built, the words I've written, the students I've taught, and the time I've had with my mother, and I know I made the right choice. My name is Chloe, and this is the story of how my life turned upside down. Not once, but twice. But more importantly, it's the story of how I found my way right side up again. In a life filled with love, purpose, and unexpected joy.